Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be discussing what your stool or poop can tell you about the quality of your health. Long before technological advancement hit the world of medicine, before CAT scans, MRIs, X-rays, before intense lab work or blood work that could determine the level of hormones in your body and vitamin and nutrient deficiencies, physicians relied on much more primitive or ancient methodologies for evaluating a person's health. For example, it's not uncommon for a practitioner of Ayurvedic or traditional Chinese medicine to rely on very simple means of determining your health, such as evaluating the health and condition of your eyes, taking a look at your tongue and teeth, taking a look at your emotional state or your mental state, and even looking at the quality of your urine and feces. So although seemingly primitive, these methodologies are actually incredibly accurate and are very useful for self-evaluating your health on a consistent and regular basis. And what I want to do with you in this video is actually talk to you about how the condition or the state of your poop can tell you certain things about your digestive health and overall health to a certain degree, and then dive into some of the underlying imbalances that might be causing these things, and then from there give you some tips for correcting any imbalances that you might see show up in the toilet, in other words. Now, the first thing I want to cover is the perfect poop. Although defecation, elimination is sort of a taboo topic here in America or in the Western world, it is one of the most natural and normal things that humans do, and it can tell you a lot about the state or condition of your health. And there is such a thing as a healthy poop or healthy elimination versus unhealthy forms, which might indicate an underlying health imbalance. So looking at the so-called quintessential perfect poop, it's going to look something like this. And different practitioners have different names for the perfect poop, but looking at sort of the characteristics of a healthy bowel movement, you're going to want something physically speaking that is about a foot long or somewhere between 7 and 12 inches long overall. Granted that you're eating about 3 meals a day with some snacks, you're eating a substantial amount of food, but not too much. And in terms of color, you're going to want something that is a light brown color. And this is because when your body is breaking down food and eliminating old red blood cells, the red blood cell, the pigment in it actually turns into this light brown color, which is a sign that your body is eliminating old red blood cells and hopefully producing new ones. And then in terms of texture, you're going to want something that's obviously not too hard nor too soft. You want that sweet spot right in the middle between something like constipation and diarrhea, where the stool is neither too hard or too soft or too loose. You want something that's sort of a medium softness that, I hate to say this, sort of comes out like soft serve ice cream, but a little bit more firm to where it's actually held together. So you want something that is, in other words, well formed, but at the same time passes easily. And that's probably one of the last key features of a healthy bowel movement, is that it's almost pleasant, or at least neutral in experience. It shouldn't be very difficult and painful in any way. It shouldn't take a lot of time for you to pass a bowel movement. It should sort of happen rather effortlessly. And the last thing being the odor. You don't want poop that is really too strong in odor or too off-putting. Obviously, it's not going to smell pleasant, but it shouldn't smell really anything more than a bit earthy. It shouldn't really turn you off. If it smells really bad, we'll get into that in a moment. That could be a sign of some sort of bacterial overgrowth and obviously poor digestion. So in summary, the perfect poop is something that's about 8 to 10 inches long, let's say, something that is a light brown color, something that's well formed. It's easy to pass. It doesn't take too long to pass. And in terms of odor, it's sort of earthy or neutral smelling. It's not too strong, and it doesn't have a really strong foul odor. So that's what you're looking for on a regular basis, and you're going to want to experience that at least once a day, and probably first thing when you wake up after breakfast sometime. That's an ideal time to eliminate, because as you're sleeping, your metabolism's shifting into more of a catabolistic phase where your body's breaking down, detoxifying, and rebuilding. So usually while you're sleeping, your colon or large intestine is accumulating the food waste to be eliminated. So usually first thing in the morning or within the first hour of waking up is a good time to be eliminating regularly. So these are all the things that you're going to be looking for in terms of a healthy bowel movement and signs of good overall digestive function. However, unfortunately, this isn't the case for everybody, and it's going to be common for people to not experience this all of the time. So some of the time you might notice something shifts here. So that's going to be natural. There's various stressors that can occur in life and difficulties, days where you don't sleep well for whatever reason, which can throw off digestion. But generally speaking, you want sort of this perfect poop condition more often than not. So if you're experiencing something other than this, infrequently, maybe a day out of the month or so, that's really nothing to be worried about. Moving forward, we're really just going to be focusing on chronic states. So if you're experiencing any of these sorts of bowel movements that we're going to talk about in a moment on a regular basis, this is something to pay attention to. So taking a look now at one of the first signs of digestive imbalance that you might see in the stool, it's going to be any sort of poop or stool that has undigested food particles in it. So it may be meeting all the other characteristics of a perfect poop. It might be, light in color, easy to pass, nothing's really too off about it. But if you notice that there's undigested food particles in your stool, this is a key sign that you're eating something that you're intolerant to and that your intestines are likely inflamed or that you have poor hydrochloric acid stomach production. So typically when you eat a food that is compatible with your body, and if you're producing enough stomach acid, your stomach's going to break that food down into hardly visible particles that are absorbed through the intestines, and then any residual fibers that are indigestible will be eliminated through the bulk of the stool. So this is why you don't really see food particles in a healthy bowel movement. However, if you're eating a food that you're intolerant to, your body's not going to break it down. Or if you're eating foods and you have chronically low stomach acid, your stomach's not going to break it down, which leads to larger food particles that eventually go to the small intestine, through the large intestine, and out through the body, where you see it visibly in the toilet. So in other words, if you're seeing undigested food particles in your stool, you're eating something you're intolerant to or allergic to, or you don't have sufficient stomach acid. So these are obviously simple fixes in the sense that you just got to identify the foods that you're eating that you're intolerant to, and then take proactive steps to increase the production of stomach acid, something that you can learn about in detail in our Perfect Digestion course. The second type of stool that you're going to want to be aware of is, of course, diarrhea or loose stool. So this is your body's attempt to either rapidly detoxify, so you ate something that isn't compatible with your body at all, that's otherwise toxic to your body, maybe that you're highly allergic to, and your body wants to eliminate it immediately. But it may be an underlying sign also of irritable bowel syndrome, which, as we discussed in a recent video, is usually driven by excessive levels of serotonin, which impair intestinal motility, usually causing the intestines to become excited and spasm, which leads to the rapid elimination of anything in your intestines. So if you're experiencing diarrhea on a regular basis or fluctuating diarrhea constipation as seen in irritable bowel syndrome, it's likely that you're eating something, again, you're really, really intolerant to, and that your intestines are inflamed. But this is usually, again, as we talked in that video, driven by excessive serotonin, which actually causes intestinal inflammation. And if your intestines are really inflamed, you're not likely going to be able to hold on to anything that you're eating. Your body's just going to eliminate it rapidly right away. So in other words, if you have diarrhea, it's probable that you have intestinal inflammation and really high levels of serotonin. So I'm going to recommend that you watch the video that we made on IBS to get some tips there. Another type of bowel movement that you're going to want to watch out for is pellet poop. So if you're eliminating pellets or little clusters or balls, this may be a sign of impaired peristaltic action. So that's the contraction and release of the colon, which again is usually driven by high levels of serotonin. Something else that you might see in irritable bowel syndrome, if you're fluctuating between diarrhea and more or less constipation, you might notice on the more constipated end that you're eliminating in pellets. And this is usually driven by, again, excessive serotonin, but there might be accompanying intestinal dehydration as well. So if you're eliminating in pellets, the thing you're going to want to do is rehydrate the colon. And again, there's many things that can cause dehydration of the colon. Usually high levels of stress and high levels of aldosterone can cause problems with fluid metabolism and water retention. So it could be stress driven that's causing the dehydration to the colon. And one thing that could be very helpful is drinking salted water. So one thing I usually recommend is to make a saltwater sole, that's SOLE, where you dissolve about a quarter cup of high quality salt into water overnight or until it dissolves completely. Then adding 2 tablespoons of that to about 8 or 10 ounces of water or fresh orange juice, and drinking that to rehydrate not just the colon, but the whole body. And this will also help to bring down the levels of stress hormones that might be causing chronic or systemic dehydration. Next, any form of stool that is very difficult to pass, that's usually short and fatter, it's not really hot dog shaped like the perfect poop would be, is going to obviously indicate some level of constipation. So there's a lot of things that cause constipation that could be contributing to a difficult to pass or a hard to pass bowel movement, but one of the major ones is going to be hypothyroidism. So this is something we've talked about before, how hypothyroidism causes constipation by basically slowing down intestinal transit time. So when your thyroid is low, the food waste and the food through your digestive system slows down greatly, which leads to a very difficult to pass bowel movement. But there could be other things contributing to it, dietarily speaking, eating too many dehydrated foods, crackers, chips, breads, flour products, foods that are really, really rich in soluble fibers can bulk up the stool way too much, can really dehydrate the colon by sucking in a lot of water out of the colon and make a very difficult to pass bulked up stool. So correcting any form of constipation and any difficult to pass stool is going to involve obviously correcting the underlying problem, which is usually hypothyroidism if it's chronic and you're eating a healthy diet, or a very simple dietary fix would be to get your carbohydrates more from organic ripe fruits rather than really dehydrated food. So if you're eating packaged foods, crackers, chips, granola bars, and again anything really rich in soluble fiber, you're going to want to switch from those to more insoluble fibers. Get your carbohydrates and fibers from, again, organic ripe fruits and well-cooked vegetables instead. Moving along, another common stool imbalance, if you will, is going to be a stool that's really light or pale in color and one that floats. This could be a sign of a fat deficiency, which usually means that your gallbladder and your liver are not producing enough bile, which is essential for breaking down fat. And this is why you see the poop floating. It's because there's basically undigested fats in your stool causing it to float, and that's also changing the color to a lighter color, more in the realm of a grayish hue. So if you're eliminating and you notice that it's floating, or if it's light gray or lighter than brown, it's a sign that you have a fat deficiency and that maybe even a bile deficiency or a gallbladder and liver imbalance. So what you're going to want to do to correct this is make sure you're eating the right types of fats. Keep in mind that the unsaturated, specifically the polyunsaturated fats, they're toxic. They don't break down well in the body. They're not efficiently metabolized, and instead they're going to accumulate in the body and in your tissues. The thing you're going to want to do is focus on more saturated fats, things like coconut oil, grass-fed ghee, and butter, which will help to lubricate your intestines. They actually break down in the body. They have protective mechanisms, and the saturated fats also increase the production of thyroid hormone, which will be helpful for healthy elimination and healthy digestive function overall. However, you might also want to take a look at the health of the liver and gallbladder, because even if you're eating the right fats, but your liver is not in good shape and you're not producing enough bile via the gallbladder, you might not be breaking down your fat efficiently, which could lead to this digestive imbalance or this stool imbalance. So what I'm going to recommend, because it's a very in-depth topic, is you check out either our Perfect Thyroid course or our Healthy Weight Loss course for tips on improving liver function. We have a protocol in both of those courses for improving liver health and overall gallbladder health, which will be essential for breaking down your fats and eliminating properly. Last but certainly not least, if you're eliminating and there's an incredibly strong foul odor, and if it's sinking to the bottom of the toilet, this is just a sign that your overall digestive system and detoxification system are overburdened and impaired. So usually the strong odor is indicative of really bad diet, usually just cleaning up the diet, eating more organic whole foods as opposed to junk foods with bad fats, polyunsaturated fats, trans fats, different chemical additives will clean up the health of the stool almost immediately. Also, if you're drinking, if you're taking various medications, and if your lifestyle is just generally toxic, all of these things combined are obviously going to be overburdening the body. And when your body tries to eliminate those things, detoxify those things, it's going to show up in a very nasty way. So usually if your stool is very foul smelling and odorous, it's just because your body is toxic. And usually just cleaning up your diet, eating again a more fresh, organic organic, whole foods based diet and getting rid of various toxins, whether that's alcohol, junk foods, medications, or street drugs or pharmaceutical drugs, this can usually clear up things rather immediately. However, if you're leading a more or less healthy and clean or non-toxic lifestyle and you're running into this issue, this might be a sign that your detoxification system has slowed down, which if we backtrack things, the detoxification system is ruled by the digestive system, which is ruled by the metabolism. So your liver is the master detoxification organ. If your liver is not working properly, detoxification is impaired. So usually what's causing impaired detoxification is impaired liver function and impaired thyroid function. So what you really need to do to get the detoxification system back into good shape is to boost that thyroid and boost the metabolism, boost overall digestive function, and this will make your body more efficient at detoxifying really anything that you come into contact with. So this is really the big picture goal. This is why we saved it for last, because it's going to be the thing that takes the longest. However, again, like I said, just some simple changes to the diet and lifestyle might have immediate beneficial effects. But for handling this here, I'm just going to recommend that if you're running into this sort of issue, if you're just having really bad bowel movements on a regular basis, that you check out our Perfect Digestion course and adhere to all of those tips, because it's going to be, again, a systemic process that you have to go through. It's about improving the thyroid and the metabolism. It's about improving the overall health of the organs that make up the digestive system. And these things will contribute to healthy detoxification. But one really simple tip I have for you right now is to utilize both activated charcoal and consuming a raw carrot on a daily basis. These things will have powerful detoxification qualities. The activated charcoal can absorb any toxins that might be contributing to this sort of fecal matter or this sort of bowel movement. And the raw carrot can actually cleanse out the entire intestinal tract, get rid of pathogens, various toxins. It can bind with harmful estrogens and eliminate those from your intestines. So usually just taking 500 milligrams of activated charcoal and eating a carrot a day, a raw carrot, can really clean up the intestines and clean up literally your bowel movements. So there you guys have it. Hopefully this video has helped you understand your body a little bit more and has given you a bit more confidence in basically managing your own health, taking a look at your own symptoms and in a non-stressful or worrisome way, have the confidence to make simple changes to improve your own health rather than, hopping online and WebMDing yourself to death, so to speak, and being really worried about what's going on. A lot of the times, if you can just take a look at simple aspects of your health, simple qualities can tell you really what's going on in your body internally, and very simple fixes oftentimes have very profound effects, especially if you implement them over the long term. So hopefully this video has provided some insight there and giving you some tips and tools for improving your own health and at the very least helping you understand what might be going on with your own body. If you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet already. And if you're interested in learning more beyond this YouTube channel, remember we do have an online wellness academy where we offer very in-depth online courses for improving various aspects of your health. A lot of the courses we mentioned in this video. We also have a blog and a tonic herb shop with additional information and resources. All of these things you can find in the description box below.